listings lined up in a row. Josh brings the numbers, making dreams grow. First-time buyers stepping through the door. Keys to your castle, they're what we're here for. Navigating through the home buyer's maze. Educated steps in a world full of haze. The podcast is rolling with wisdom to share, helping you settle in your new lair. Navigating through the home buyer's maze. Educated steps in a world full of haze. The podcast is rolling with wisdom to share, helping you settle in your new lair. Jeb and Josh, they're paving the way. Dreams to reality, they make your day. From the first hello to the closing sign, your journey to home is looking divine. Down, the numbers make sense. Jeb shows the vision beyond the white fence. Teamwork like this is rare to find, helping you leave all your doubts behind. They talk about homes and talk about life, cutting through the stress and the buyer's strife. With every word they light up the spark, guiding you through when the road feels dark. Jeb and Josh, they're paving the way. Dreams to reality, they make your day. From the first hello to the closing sign, your journey to home is looking divine.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Educated Homebuyer Live. Josh and I have been separated here over the last couple of weeks. I've been traveling. Josh has been relaxing, taking the time off to enjoy himself.
Vacationing in Michigan.
Vacation in Michigan. Sounds delightful. Yeah. But we're back. The Educated Homebuyer Live is here. And we're going to be talking about Zillow's new home price forecast. We're going to be talking about what's happening in the housing market, buyers, sellers, inventory, what the Fed just did, and how it impacts you as a potential home buyer, seller in today's market. So, Josh, anything you want to get off your chest before we dive into tonight's episode?
No, we're just gonna jump way deep into it because obviously it was a tumultuous day. The world changed and everything's different now. So if you can tell, I am not being in any way serious. Things look very different than yesterday, but big picture, absolutely nothing's changed.
All right. So we always like to start with charts as we got to dive through, supply, demand, the things that really impact housing on a fundamental level. We'll talk about the Fed. While we're doing that, if you have questions, now is a really good time to start putting them in there because as we come out of those charts, we like to just dive right into the questions, give you guys what you came for, which is information that you can actually use to help with that home buying process. So, Mr. Lewis, we've missed a couple of weeks of these, but I do want to throw it in here. And we're going to take a look at Zillow's home pricing charts or Zillow. Whoa, what just happened?
You made this disappear for Halloween.
Hey, that was it. I'm a magician for Halloween. So Zillow's forecast just got revised, now sitting 2% higher, 1.9% higher from September 25 to September 2026. So you guys probably don't remember, but earlier in the year, Zillow's forecast was actually negative year over year. They have since revised it to now seeing positive data trending from this year to next year. But as you know, Josh, if inflation is at 3%, which is where we are today, and home prices are appreciating at 2% in real terms, we're actually really not appreciating at all, right? We're just kind of, we're actually negative in that sense. But the reality is home prices are continuing to get more expensive. So the longer you wait, it's probably going to cost you more, even if rates come down a little bit. I mean, we kind of showed you that last week or on that thumbnail that we used last week. If home prices, jump by, say that $500,000 home goes to 525, but interest rates come down, you're still paying more for that home because the price is higher. But nevertheless, when you're looking at this chart here, the dark blue areas, which there aren't really a lot of them that are actually in blue, are the areas that you're going to see more of that positive home price growth, whereas the lighter and as we move into that darker red color, which you see in New Orleans, Austin, some of those markets are where you see the negative. But just depending on where you're looking, obviously it is completely local and definitely changes by area.
We talk about this one every time we talk about the Zillow numbers. Remember, this is a nowcast. They react and swing more violently. So everyone's like, oh, these idiots at Zillow don't know what they're talking about. It's a nowcast. They're telling you what does the data today say and what has impacted that data. Well, we're coming off of 90, 120 days of improving interest rates. You see a lot. Diana Olick over at CNBC likes to say, well, refinance applications are through the roof. We're just not seeing a difference in purchases. Well, it's just not how it works. The refinances can turn on like at the drop of a dime. Purchases take a little bit of time. People have to get the drift that rates are coming down. Hey, I need to check with my loan officer, or I need to get pre-approved, need to get with the realtor, need to look at houses, make some offers, and they don't close for 30, 60 days. We are starting to see in terms of nowcasts like Zillow that it's picking that up. FHFA came out with their information or their forecast, which is more of a forecast than a nowcast, and it's looking at everything. And both FHFA and I believe it was the MBA are looking at high 1% to low 2% appreciation, which jives pretty well with
pretty much with what we've said as well. Kind of keeping pace at the rate of inflation. But Josh, I want to commend us. It's when two girls show up and they're wearing the same outfit, and they're like just completely surprised.
Yeah,
our lights in the background match without even planning. I mean, look at this. This
color coordinated.
I like it. But let's take a look at the markets that they're expecting to increase the most. They look at the 300 largest metros, but here you got Atlantic City. They're expecting 5.4% year over year from September to September. Then you got Rockford, Illinois, Concord, New Hampshire, Knoxville, Tennessee, Saginaw, Michigan. Is that right? Yes. Fayetteville. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but you got South Carolina, Connecticut, New York, a lot of the Northeast, and you got some North Carolina on there, Tennessee on there. Jacksonville is a dump in North Carolina, just so you know.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Jacksonville, Florida. I'm like, Duval's going to be mad.
It's not a dump, but it's a Marine base. It's not where you really want to be I mean, if you're stationed there, it's one thing, but it's not where I would move. But they're expecting 4.4% growth in that area. What markets are going to do the worst? In the entire state of Louisiana, it looks like. You've got pretty much all Louisiana, Texas, and then when you come to California, looking like San Francisco and Chico are on the downside, and both of those are just under 2%, so not big declines. The bigger declines, it looks like, are in that in Louisiana area, as we mentioned earlier.
Speaking of Chico, I had a longtime client in Chico buying an investment property, clear to close, docs ready to go out, backed out of their transaction in Chico. They must have not liked this down 2% a week ago.
Wow. They lose their deposit, walk away from the deposit, the whole thing?
They negotiated it with the seller. They said, we would like some of our deposit back. We're okay with you keeping some of it.
Wow. I just heard of a story from not a client of mine, but a friend of mine who's a real estate agent, has a house for sale in the Park Pine Streets over here, Josh, and they had an $80,000-ish deposit on a property, and it's a divorce situation. Wife basically was getting like a lump sum from the husband, who was going, the whole thing. And I guess he paid the initial amount, and then the second amount, he basically was like, screw you, and then started fighting with the whole thing. And so ended up saying she backed out. She was scared that she wasn't gonna be able to do what she wanted to do with the property because she was expecting that money. And so she walked away from an $80,000 deposit, dude. 80 grand.
That's
a lot of money. A lot of money. But inventory, we like to start at inventory. Inventory is still showing increases. We're sitting near the highs. Increase from 859,419 to 867,811. So there's a chance we could still make new highs this year for inventory, which is really, really rare, to get the peak at this point in the year. But I would expect, again, I've said this for the last couple of weeks, as we moved closer to Thanksgiving, we should start to see that decline.
Jeb, do you think some of that, you've always pointed out that 75% of sellers become buyers. Does that have anything to do with the lower rates? Some of these sellers are looking around going, hey, I want to take advantage and I've got to sell my house to make it happen.
I mean, possibly, right? We don't truly know, but I mean, demand has picked up, buyer demand has picked up, and inventory's also picked up. So that would kind of signal that there's people doing exactly what you just said. It's just this is typically not the time of year where people are um, actively looking for real estate for the most part. I mean, definitely there are some out there, but generally, people that are thinking of listing today, they're probably saying, you know what, I'm just going to push it off until the start of the year before I
Of
do anything.
those 6 years listed there on the chart, the only year where you saw an inflection up this time of year was 2022, and that was the year when not prices, but interest rates spiked, and people were like, "I got to sell now, or no one's going to buy houses." So definitely not a normal thing to see an uptick this year or this time of year. And the only explanation I can come up with it is that there are some people wanting to take advantage of the lower rates and get out and buy.
Absolutely. What's happening in Orange County, Huntington Beach? So Orange County still declining, down 2.44% week over week. Now sitting at 4,176 properties. Huntington Beach at 265. It was down 1.13%. The highs for both of those are in for the year. I would expect inventory to continue to slow and move lower as we head and get closer to that holiday market. New listings, we actually saw a big spike this past week, which is why we saw inventory grow, right? We got new listings coming on the market, which, as you can tell from this chart here, that is not normal, just based on the last couple of years. No real reason that I know that it happened other than, it did happen. So we're just going to continue to watch it and see if it's a trend or if it's just something that happens one time. With that, Josh, as I said, pending sales also jumped. So maybe your theory is accurate, right? People put their homes on the market. People also went under contract about the same time. Is that the reason? Hard to say. Hard to say at this point. Percent of properties with price reductions sitting right at that 41.6% level, which is essentially where we've been since early September. Just kind of moving flat, moving sideways, not really a lot, of anything happening in that regard. Mortgage rate, or the spread rather, between the 10-year and 30-year fixed rate continues to, move, trend lower, kind of moving, I guess, sideways over the last couple of weeks, but we're still keeping it in that 2.23, 2.25, somewhere in that area, Josh, which is, why we've seen rates come down considerably when nothing's really happening out there.
It would be very nice to see that spread get back under 2. That's still at the high end of the long-term range. Going back to 1972, 53 years, 54 years, 172 is the average. So I would love to see it in the 2s, or 199.
You as a viewer would love to see it as well. Just
yes, everyone would enjoy that.
Trust me when I say that. So today we had a Fed meeting, Josh, and one of the headlines is that interest rates got cut by 0.25%. That does not mean your interest rate improved by 0.25%. In fact, interest rates probably got a little bit worse, which we could talk about here as we move into those rates at the end of the year. But what caused that, Mr. Lewis?
We had a hawkish rate cut. So meaning that they did what was expected. They cut by 0.25%, but everything Powell said. And the funny thing is, some experts, friend of the show, Barry Habib, he gave us a long detailed list of why he was expecting a dovish cut, and the market to possibly rally off of this and move to new lows and low interest rates for you guys buying and refinancing. And we saw the exact opposite, just exactly what he did last month. Cut, came out with very hawkish commentary, and this was the money shot right here. The rate cut in December is far from a foregone conclusion. So the market had priced it in at about 90%. You're going to see here in a second, it's down to about 65%. So basically what we saw was front running the next cut. Everyone knew this one was coming and they weren't going to disappoint, but the front running of the next cut sort of got smashed in the face. And looking at it here, we just follow through. Like you can see this is a 15-minute chart. We normally show you a chart that's each one of those candles is one day. Each one of these is 15 minutes. So the market had been improving throughout the week and then kind of went sideways this morning. And as soon as he started talking, you could see that direction was going in the hawkish direction, where he's talking about, yeah, we're cutting, but we have no idea what comes next. We saw this run up. So the market had kind of stabilized by the end of the day. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next week. So when you guys come back next Wednesday, see where this is at. That'll tell us more. So some sort of choice comments. He says today's cut was risk management. So he's making it sound like we didn't do this because we had to, because we needed to stimulate the economy. He says there's potential risk of slowing the economy. So we're going to do this to manage risk. Going forward is a different thing. If there's a high level of uncertainty, that could be an argument for caution on moving, meaning further cuts, which is why the market kind of backed off of that. We've moved 150 basis points. So between the 100 last year, 50 now, 150 basis points. Now that's in a range where many estimates of neutral rate live. What he didn't close with that is those are like the most aggressive estimates of where neutral is. Most everyone think neutral is another 50 to 100 basis points below where we are right now, but he's not wrong to think there are experts that think this could be construed as neutral. Follows up with data available suggests the outlook for employment and inflation have not changed much since September meeting. He says that, and that's important because we don't really have any data since that September meeting. No one really knows. I'm sure they have some data that we don't have, but no one has great data. In the near term, inflation risks tilted to the upside, employment risks tilted to the downside. Risks of more persistent inflation need to be managed. And then he followed with this. This was the one that threw me off, where everything is hawkish. This one he throws in, apart from tariffs, inflation is close to our goals. Again, I don't know how he's able to discern the difference between the two. Of what there is that's attributable to tariffs and what is just out and out inflation. But that's what he's saying. So here's the chart. Yesterday, did you see the number yesterday, Jeb? I think it was over 90.
I did not. I haven't looked at this in a little bit.
High 80s, low 90s for another cut in December. And now we're down to about 68%. Does that change things in the big picture? No, because the market now is at a 99% chance that either December or January we're going to get a cut. So big picture, that's what I'm talking about. Nothing changed today. In the short run, the pace of the trajectory lower may have changed, but nothing big picture did. And this chart shows you that green down channel, we are still firmly in the down channel. You can see those candles go up and touch the top before working their way down to the bottom. Back up to the top, work their way down to the bottom. So we're a little ways away from the top, but we could get 4 or 5 basis points worse. That's like 1/16% in interest rate. And that would likely hold. Now, if we blow through the top of that and we're getting some more information, which again, there's no data, government shut down, there's no data to push us through that. So I don't think we're going to go out of the top of that range. We're also going to have a hard time moving lower towards the bottom of that range until we get some data. What does that actually mean in the real world? Like we said, about an eighth worse over the day, 0.14 on the 30-year fixed rate, up to 6.25. Still, other than the last few days, the best rates that we've had in over a year, and some of the best in the last 3 years. FHA and VA loans down at 6%. We're still getting people locked under 6% that are well qualified, especially on the government stuff. So rates are great, but definitely worse. We last week we commented that all these arrows were green. Now we've got most of them red on the day and the week. So what I would say is, if you're on the fence, if you're the person who's been, I should refi, I could save a couple $100s a month, but you're like, I'm going to wait and see if I can save 300. We had a ton of people do that last year and they missed out entirely. And they've been sitting here for a year and have lost out on $3,000-$4,000 of savings. So if it makes sense and you can do a lower and no cost refi, knock a couple $200-$400 off your payment, let's talk. Let's go through that now and not get greedy and miss a potential window like a lot of people did last year.
They absolutely did. So with that, the red is the states. That's not a political chart. That are states that Josh is licensed in. The blue states are states that a member on the team is licensed in. But either way, we can help guide you. Just make sure you use that link scrolling in the bottom of the screen there. Or if you'd like, if you're one of those people who prefers to scan QR codes, you can scan that. And that'll take you to the same exact place and get you in touch with the team. Can guide you through the process, answer your questions. I don't know, Josh. I don't have the list in front of me, but over 100 people helped this year so far. So a lot of people have reached out, a lot of opportunities to help even more people. So if you're on the fence, need guidance, make sure you reach out. The team would love to have that conversation. So, Josh, I'm gonna select something here. I don't know what this does. I did it a minute ago. Is this questions that we're going to answer because they're starred? Is that what that is?
Looks like it. Is that what it do? It could cues up a little on screen of
yeah, like of something that we're potentially talking about, maybe. Well, I don't even know.
I didn't star Dixieland's nice comments, and they're there, so I don't know.
Oh, maybe they're just the next comments. I don't know. So we're gonna take that off because I truly don't know what it does. But StreamYard
new features from StreamYard.
Yeah, so let's do this. Let's start with some questions, Mr. Lewis.
And let's everyone out there, you wouldn't be watching two dudes talking about mortgage and real estate if you didn't have questions. If you have a question, throw one in the comments. We got a bunch of them. We're going to get through them. We'll get you hopefully some good and accurate answers that will help you.
So I'm going to have to do something different here, Josh, because this is not allowing me to actually see the question because of how it's being written. So it adds complexity to everything here. Willing asks, would it ever make sense for a veteran to do a conventional loan if they are putting more than 20% down? Any reason that VA could be still a better loan?
Subsequent use funding fees can be higher with 20% down, not so much. So an instance, you're saying 20% down in terms of buying. If you're doing a subsequent use cash out refi, that funding fee can be as much as 3.3%. So I've seen people do $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 cash out refis here in Southern California. If it's a subsequent use, you can pay a $27,000 to $30,000 funding fee. That's a hard one to chew off. That's about the only situation where it would make sense for a veteran to not use their benefit. Anyone who has a service-related disability that makes them exempt from the funding fee, you're always going to use the VA. If you were in a situation of secondary entitlement where you didn't have enough left, but if you have 20% down, that's probably still going to be okay. So very, very, very limited cases, and generally would be more likely in a cash out refi in a subsequent use situation.
All right. Cameron's asking the age-old question of should I buy or should I wait? And the answer does not change, Cameron, regardless of what's going on. And that is, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for lower rates? Are you waiting for lower prices? Are you waiting to improve your credit score, get your tax returns done, make more money? All of those things you have to contemplate. Not something Josh and I can answer here. But here's the thing. If you're waiting on the market to crash, you're waiting on foreclosures, you're waiting on delinquencies, you're wasting your time. If you're waiting because you're waiting on, affordability for you personally to improve because there's something that's going to change in your life, or you're not ready because, you're getting ready to change jobs or relationships or
change girlfriends,
locations, or maybe, girlfriends. Maybe you're changing girlfriends. Those are all reasonable reasons to wait. But other than that, it's, trying to pick the top or the bottom is a fool's game, and this is not the show for that. Juliet is asking, Josh, so we did get a cut today on the Fed funds rate, which does impact things like home equity lines of credit. It also does impact other short-term loans, credit cards, student loans, just some other things that are out there, Josh. So is now a good time to refinance a potential second mortgage, maybe a home equity line of credit?
If it's a home equity line of credit, yeah. A lot of people took out home equity lines of credit when the fixed rate seconds were much higher, and it can make sense. So also, most of those people with home equity lines of credit or a fixed second, they took those out because they have a really good 2%, 3%, 4% first mortgage. So the blended rate is better than doing a new refinance. So you can refinance a second mortgage, and you would just want to look at where are the fixed rates relative to what your HELOC looks like. I mean, we're getting to the point where Powell's saying we're near neutral. Someone could consider it neutral. We probably have another 50 to 100 basis points of cuts. So that home equity line of credit should come down another 0.5 to 1% over the next year and a half, but no guarantees that they will. We got to see what happens from that end. So yeah, it could be a good time. It's always, numbers never lie. Run the numbers, check them out, see what makes sense.
Numbers never lie. That is very, very true. Josh, Pastor James, not Peter James, Pastor James is asking how the bond market is reacting to the result of today's news, which you did show the 15-minute chart there. But more importantly, let's just where did the 10-year end up versus where it started? Because it started just under 4%, or was it just over 4%?
Just under.
Okay.
So for the better part of a week, we've been about that 398, 399, and we ended up at about 407. So is it the end of the world? It's not, but it's definitely worse, and it's definitely nice to stay under 4. It's a psychological level. It's not necessarily a technical level, but when we look at it, the bond market did not love Powell's hawkish comments today.
Question here. How do you know if you got a great deal on new construction? What is the key metric to evaluate? So kind of difficult to some degree to tell whether or not what kind of deal you got on new construction versus existing. because a lot of the new construction stuff's not entered into the MLS. You never see, some states are full disclosure states in the sense that you see everything. You see what somebody paid for a house, you see taxes, you see everything. In other states like Idaho, don't show anything. So, depending on where you're located in the United States, the price that you paid for the home and all of that stuff may or may not be put into a system that's actually that you can see on Zillow and Redfin and what have you. But nevertheless, new construction is difficult in that sense because most of it's not input. So there's not really a clear cut way to figure it out other than maybe talk to the neighbors and other people that have potentially purchased in there, or maybe even your real estate agents maybe sold some of them in there. Other than that, I don't really know how to tell you whether or not you got a great deal. I mean, if they're knocking off the price, and you've seen the prices go down there and they're offering you incentives, chances are you're probably getting a pretty good deal. But remember, new construction often tries to keep prices high while giving incentives so that they can keep the numbers, the price is stable across there, in case they have additional to sell and so on and so forth. So, I guess in layman terms, or to get back to your question, I don't have a clear cut way, and that's probably what I should have just said and moved on. But I just wanted to ramble for a little bit.
It's a funny and interesting market, right? It's one of the hardest ones for you to try and get a handle on. What I was going to say before you went on your rambling answer, Jeb, was time. Time is going to tell you, right? 5 years, 7 years,
Sure.
10 years.
Yeah,
You have a
and
much
in
better
those,
handle on it.
you're going to probably be just fine, in my opinion. But you don't know what you don't know. Let's ask a question here about the government shutdown. Josh, we did a podcast on this on the educated home buyer. So if you guys haven't or don't know, you've been living under a rock, we actually have another YouTube channel called the Educated Home Buyer. Maybe you're watching from that channel too, because we stream to both. But if you haven't, check it out. We talked about the government shutdown on there. We talked about the impact that it's having. But we have a question here saying, are there any approval concerns for federal employees during the government shutdown, Mr. Lewis?
There can be. It depends on if they're getting paid or not. So let's use the one that everyone keeps hearing about is air traffic controllers are told you're going to go to work and you're not going to get paid and you're going to like it. So an underwriter could reasonably say, I need to know you're going to be getting paid, or that we can reasonably assume that at some point the government shutdown is going to stop. We can't have all government employees off forever. So generally, if you have reserves that can get you through, so if you're trying to close on a purchase, if you're trying to close on a refi, different thing, but on a purchase, if, hey, we have a $3,000 a month payment and we've got $20,000 in reserves post-closing, it's reasonable that you could make the payment for quite an extended time without it. But yeah, I have not had any issues or run into anything. We have a listener who closed today. We closed on an FHA when he started on a USDA. So it wasn't a him issue. He's not a federal employee, but he was getting a loan that required a guarantee from USDA, and no one is at the USDA to do that right now. So it's having some impact, but not a huge impact.
All right. Question from Ben says, do you get the feeling we are past the bottom in home transactions? I kind of get the feeling it's up from here. I would say yes, as long as rates continue to do what they're doing. If rates do go back up, that could clearly stall transactions and send us back to what are all-time lows. But I don't expect if we stay around 6%, are transactions going to increase? I think so, but you're not going to get back to 5 million. I mean, you'd be lucky to hit 4.5. I mean, I think we're kind of in this 4 to probably 4.5 on the high side, probably for the next year or two, in my opinion, unless you see something major happen in rates.
Didn't the NBA just update their forecast for home sales? And I almost misspoke and said 5.25. That would be wonderful. But I think they were 4.25. It might have been 4.5, but I think they were 4.25 for 2026.
There's been a lot of people, Lawrence Yun. I mean, a lot of people that have been wrong. Chief economist for the National Association of Realtors saying almost last couple of years, every single year, hey, transactions are going to continue to increase. We're going to hit 4.5. We haven't been. We're 4 million. We're pegged right around that 4 million mark, and that's probably going to be the case until something changes. So yes, we've probably seen the bottom, but I don't know that it's going to be a major difference between here and where we're going, at least for the foreseeable future.
So the NBA is projecting 4.353. So is that better? It's a lot better. It's
Sure.
350,000 more home sales,
Sure.
but it's still a very low
Yeah,
level
I mean,
historically,
yeah, I mean,
especially to the
it's
size of
just
the
less than
population.
10%, maybe 8%, something like that. So, Josh, are you the kind of guy when you buy something, do you buy the extended warranty? Do you buy the protection plan?
I self-insure. We talked about this. We did a show today where we talked a little bit about homeowners insurance. With homeowners insurance, all types of insurance, I always go with a high deductible, basically self-insure myself. So with stuff like this, I figure it's going to flame out. It costs as much to replace it as to repair it as it does to replace it. So I will generally forego this. So Jeb, you and I talked about whether we could throw a poll in here because we don't go directly through YouTube. So I teed this up, Jeb. I'm going to throw a poll out to the audience here and let's see what it does. It says it posted it. So if you guys can see it, you can vote and you can tell us if you are a protection plan buyer or not. What about
Well,
you?
here's the thing is I am typically not a protection plan buyer. Just because if I buy something new, I think, why the hell do I need a protection plan? It's new. And my American Express does protect me to some degree on certain items and what have you. But what I will say is I talked to I have a tenant in a property that we've been dealing with a refrigerator issue, and the appliance repair person went out yesterday. And he told me, hey, it needs a new temperature control and a new sensor in it. And with labor and both of those items, it was going to be like $700 for this refrigerator. It's an older refrigerator. And I'm like, okay, so basically what you're telling me is we need a new refrigerator. And he goes, no, not what I'm telling you at all. He goes, this is an older refrigerator. He goes, if you repair this refrigerator will probably last you another 15 years. He goes, it's the old school style. He goes, a new refrigerator. He goes, today you buy a refrigerator, they're made to last like 5, maybe 7 years. And I'm like, are we serious? Like, this is crazy. If that's true, I realize, he might be, exaggerating a little bit.
16 years old and has never had an issue, like not a single issue. So
mine is less than that, and it's had multiple. So maybe there is some truth to what he's saying. But anyhow, I can't see the poll, Josh, but
No.
I'm not looking at it on YouTube.
We have a grand total of one answer. And which side do you think the one person that participated in the poll? Oh, we got two. So what do you think? How do you think
50-50.
our two votes?
It's 50-50.
It is 50-50.
There
The first one came
I
in
know
and
these
said
people.
yes, and the second one said no. I'm a no.
This is like my children. This is like my children. They just disagree to disagree. And I guarantee you that's what the second person did. They said, I'm going to make it.
I saw
even.
that. I'm going the other way.
Yeah. So
I will
raise
say
your
this.
hand if you're that person.
So we're talking about appliances, but I will zag. Here's the one area where I buy the extended warranty. I keep my cars for a long time, and Toyota extended warranties, especially if you shop online and find a dealer that gives them to you basically at cost plus like $100. 10-year, $125,000 Toyota Platinum warranty for my truck was like $2,200, and I'm like, I'm keep the truck for 10 years, so let's do that.
It's good stuff. You also do you buy the insurance on your phone though, don't you?
Yes.
Android. That's not a protection plan, so to speak, but it's somewhat of a one. Yeah.
That I have control of. And as you've seen, it's been a long time. Jeb, it's been 10 years. Jeb invited me to the member guest at his previous country club about 10 years ago. I had a beautiful new Pixel phone.
Brand new.
I'd probably had it like a day. We sit down to have some breakfast and boom, right on the ground. It broke. So that is why I do.
That lives in infamy. It just lives in my head.
We now have 4 answers, Jeb, and it's 75% no.
Just
75% no. Leave it open. We'll leave it open until the end of the show.
All right. So got another question here. How does the current market compare to what you've seen the last 10 years? Are we in a buyer's market? Something else? I know it depends on where you are in the country, but in general. Okay. So here in Southern California, we are, I would still say, a seller's market, depending on the price point. I think that's going to be the key metric. Location is first and foremost, but the second thing is not only like statewide location, but where you are, like within the state, like California is a big state. Southern California, things are still moving in a lot of price points. If you're under $2 million, chances are you're probably going to have multiple offers if it's priced right. Whereas you might be able to go to San Francisco, some of these areas outside of the Bay Area, and it may be more of a buyer's market. So very difficult to say. But I think if we looked at the United States as a whole, I would say it's probably pretty neutral. I think there's some areas that buyers have leverage, some areas where sellers have leverage, but for the most part, there's some give and take on both sides. Just my thought. Are we done with questions, Josh? Is that it?
No, we got
A
more
bunch more.
questions.
All right, here we go.
So here, I like the comment here. Dixieland, who's here every week, says my house is paid for, so I don't want to borrow, so I don't care about your ability to lend money. I don't want money, and I have no interest in selling, but I just like listening to two dudes talk. So hey, some people
We're two dudes and we talk. So
dudes,
hey, we fit the profile.
Our wives may say we can't not talk. We can't stop talking.
Good stuff. All right. So Kenneth follows up and says, getting in contract with someone to get started.
Hold on. It's a two-part, and you missed part A. So there's part A.
Okay, go for it.
Hey guys, I do have a question. So next week I will have been at my second job for a year. I know in order to use my second job's income, I need 2 years. With that said, when should I start getting in contact with someone to get started with the home buying process? Kenneth, appreciate your honesty here. My credit is just above 580, and I have just slightly under $5,000 saved. Thanks. I also live in Northern Indiana. So in Indiana, you can get really, really nice houses for $200,000 to $300,000. So you're well on your way in terms of the down payment that you need there. I am fairly adamant about this 580 credit score thing. Jeb and other YouTubers with big YouTube mortgage and real estate channels, the thumbnail always says FHA 580 credit score. It is true. It is a fact. You can do a 3.5% down FHA with a 580 credit score. I do not believe anyone should ever do that unless it's a situation where you inherit a home and you have to do something with the financing and you got a 580 credit score. We just got to get it done. If you're saying, hey, I got at least 6 to 12 months before I have 2 years on my second job, let's get you with a credit repair company. If you are the type of person, we talk about, you buy a home when it's the right time in your home, your life to buy a house, right? So stable in my job, stable in my employment. Part of this is stable in my credit and how I handle my finances.
Sure.
Your credit score is a snapshot of a moment in time. So no problem that at one moment in time, you were a 580. You might have been worse. You might have been a 550. But that person is going to have a hard time getting a loan. You're not very, very unlikely to get an automated approval. You're going to go to a manual approval, which is going to require compensating factors, which you may or may not have, which is going to be a lower debt to income. It's going to make everything harder. We did one here, just closed Friday. Yeah, it was Friday for a listener in Florida, and his was like a 610, 615, and we were able to get the automated approval, but it was particular. It wanted reserves. It wanted a lower debt to income ratio. So the lower you go on that score, you're going to get worse interest rate. You're going to have a harder time.
Yep.
So if we have 6 to 12 months, reach out. Let's get you connected. You don't have to use our credit repair company, but most of them are not reputable. There are a handful of them out there that are good. I've seen listeners reach out and go from a 580 to a 640 in 90 days. It is possible if you have some money and you are able to do the work.
All right. I'm going to see if I can throw this in here, Josh, because this just came to my email. You can keep talking if there's anything else to add in there, but let's see here.
Dixieland follows up and says that he's replaced the stove, dishwasher, furnace, and air conditioner, my water heater in my house in the last 6 years and fixed nothing. So he replaced, not fix. And I will say, my sister and I inherited my dad's place. I managed it for my dad when it was a rental when he was still alive. In the last 10 years, the over-the-range hood microwave has gone out 3 times. So those are junk. So I don't know. Maybe I'm on the wrong side. Maybe I should have bought some of the
it doesn't show right. So we're kind of covering up the chart.
Can you make us tiny?
I mean, maybe. There we go. So this just came in my emails a moment ago. Someone asked what kind of market we're in. Is it buyers, sellers market? Zillow just came out with their heat index, and nationwide they're at 50, basically a neutral market, saying that it's neither buyer nor seller. So that is real-time data that just dropped from Resi Club. So hopefully that just kind of, it definitely aligns with what we were just saying. So looks like we might know.
So it must be true. If it aligns with what we're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we clearly know what we're talking about over here. All right. What do we got?
Willing has a follow-up on that veteran question. So if they're 100% disabled and they do a conventional loan, are they still able to be exempt from property taxes or only eligible with a VA loan? Has nothing to do with your VA financing, has nothing to do with the VA. Many, I don't know if all of them, but many states do have property tax reductions or exemptions for 100% permanent and total disabled veterans. So from that perspective, like Texas, you're 100% PNT, you pay no property taxes. It's the worst thing about living in Texas is the high property taxes. They have no state income tax. If you're a disabled vet, 100%, you have no property tax. So I've always said, if I were a disabled vet, I would find the finest part of Texas, and that's where I would retire to.
That's pretty good stuff. I didn't know that no property tax at all, and well, you obviously have no state tax, so that's a heck of a deal in Texas there. But that'd be the only thing that could get me there, if I'm being honest. So I've been there. Texas, I like, but I don't think I could live there.
I like to visit. I like to visit Texas. I don't think I could live there either.
All right. Marcus coming in. Thanks for all the great advice. We appreciate you guys being here. Do us a favor. If you find any value in the show, hit the thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. You should subscribe because it helps us, helps the algorithm. In fact, we ask that if you've listened to the podcast at all and you haven't done so, leave us a review. It really helps Spotify and Apple push it out to more people. And that's how we get in front of, people just organically. We don't run ads. We don't do anything here. We're literally just using the algorithm. So you guys are the only help we have. So if you can take a minute, do us a favor and do that, it would benefit us greatly. All right. Let's see here. Josh, let's see. We got a question here. Why is it?
It's actually clarification. It's from Isaac. So he started here. Further clarification on his new construction deal. Colorado, 471 contract price with all available incentives, landscaping, blinds, etc. Appraisal came in at 483. The builder has the home at list of 557 before incentives. Since the appraisal came in below the original builder list, is this a good deal? What the builder asked for it is irrelevant. If I ask you to pay $9 million for my house and you pay $3 million for it, you are not getting a good deal, regardless of the fact that you got a $6 million discount from my request. So I would pay zero attention to what the builder was originally asking for it. I would pay more attention to if you're in a disclosure state, which Colorado's a disclosure state, isn't it, Jeb?
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't know.
I believe it is. So you can find out what your neighbors paid for their homes. And if so, you can take a look at it and figure out where you fit in terms of your upgrades, your amenities, your lot location, if it's a premium lot relative to others, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, guys, we need your advice. Willing, one of our viewers here, has ant problems, and ants are the worst. I swear, like the last house that we owned, we would do all the things and we would still get ants. It's like we lived on an ant hill. But we'd buy that little ant bait, the gel liquid stuff, and that would work. The problem with that is that it attracts them all before they go away. So it's like you go from a couple of ants here to like the entire army of ants, and then eventually they all kind of dissipate and die. But we're going to ask you, what is your ant trick? What's your trick to get rid of ants other than just move? Because that's essentially what I did, and it's worked out greatly.
Build a moat around the house, fill it with gasoline, and light it on fire. That's my solution.
Oh, that's a good idea. Willing, do that and take a video of that. We'll post it on the channel. I think that would be a great video.
When I was little, my grandma had one of those things that sat on the counter, and it was supposed to make this high-pitched noise that scared the ants away, and the ants would crawl all over it. Didn't care.
Yeah.
No,
and nobody could live in the house because like it got to them. Like you couldn't have a pet dog or anything.
Yeah,
just because it would run them away. All right, guys, we've been on 43 minutes and we've gotten to the end of the internet, which is sometimes very difficult to do. But if you have questions,
dead internet theory.
We've gotten to the end. Gotten to the end. This is the dark web now, Josh. Let us know what your questions are, and we can try to get to them now. We are slammed at the moment, but we'll try to fit you in before the show's over. Or if there's something that you want us to cover on the podcast, now's a good time. Hell, we'll take anything. Just make conversation. Otherwise, there's a baseball game on. I was going to say a Dodger game.
Win the Dodger game.
I was going to say a Dodger game, but I'm not really a Dodger fan. I am rooting for them because they're the local team, but I didn't, that's it. So there's a baseball game on that I would like to watch. But we're here rather to give you some answers to some questions. So Ben with another one says, do you offer good 30-year fixed loans to investors, Josh? Building ground up in California, good equity, low loan to value, but doesn't have a regular income, spaced out when sell one. Not sure.
Yeah, don't know about the last part, but we don't have good 30-year fixed loans for investors, Jeb. We have the best,
There you go.
as President Trump would say, the best. So from that perspective, we have a handful of investors that have excellent terms, and excellent. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? If you're an 800 credit score borrower and you make $1 million a year, and really we're just shopping on terms. For some people, that means, hey, you're a little outside the box. We need someone that sees it in your terms on investment loans. So definitely reach out if we can help on that.
I thought we were going to make it through a show, Josh, without you freezing. We did not. You froze. But Joyce has more than ant problems. Centipedes, spiders, silverfish. My advice is to get an exterminator.
You need an exterminator.
You need more than bait. You need, like, you might want to burn it down, like Josh said. That might be the next step. But before you do that, you might try calling someone to come out and see what they can do to take care of it, because that can help. It can help. Josh, how does down payment assist? Did you freeze?
You had to one up my freezing and froze on me. So
there you go.
It's okay. I read the question while you were frozen.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. How does down payment assistance work? If you want down payment assistance, you are truly, really looking for a grant program. A grant is someone giving you money. They're few and far between. We don't have any good ones in California. I've seen a few around the country. I've seen a good one in Tennessee. We had a buyer that was going to go, and they ended up not buying a home at all. But we had that dialed in for them, and it was a good one. So in a perfect world, you want a grant. If it's not a grant, you want a forgivable second, and forgivable in a short time frame, not forgivable in 10, 15. California is the California Housing Finance Agency. It's bond financing. They use that money. They give you a higher interest rate. They put a second and or a third mortgage on your home. And then they tell you you can't refinance because they won't subordinate and your home has to go up enough in value. So it can be some pretty strong restrictions on it. For most people, it's not an option that you want to pursue unless you don't have a down payment. You can't make it work otherwise. But definitely location specific, and you want to talk to someone who can help in your area, who can do the research and find out if there's any good programs. What I would say, Kenneth, is if you were interested and there were good programs, most of them have a minimum credit score of 640. They want to make sure they're going to credit-worthy borrowers. We got to get that credit score up.
All right, Josh, debt to income. What is the high end that a lender is willing to take across conventional, FHA, and VA?
So this is good. It's funny. Marcus Doswell, who popped up with a question here, he and I were texting about this, and he was unclear on this. So maybe this is a good topic for us. Maybe we should do a whole show on debt to income again, Jeb. But FHA, very common loan, 47%, 46.99 housing to income, for 56.99 total. So there's your housing to income ratio and then your total debt to income ratio. And FHA has two separate ones. USDA, and I don't want to misquote this, but it was 32% housing to income. And they just reduced it. I don't know if they reduced it to 29 or 30%, but it's pretty darn restrictive. USDA is a great loan program, but a very restrictive housing to income ratio. For conventional loans, generally a double ratio, and we're just looking at that back end, that total housing or total debt to income ratio. And in general, the highest you can go is 49.99. Freddie Mac on the automated, they will round down a 50.49 to a 50. So there's a little bit of flexibility and wiggle room there. Jumbo loans many times are more restrictive. If they're not following Fannie Freddie guidelines, you're oftentimes restricted to a 43 or a 45. I think we covered them all, Jeb. Oh, VA. VA does not technically have a maximum debt to income ratio if you meet the residual income requirements.
All right. Question we never had before, Josh. When you're looking at someone's pay stub, if they get things like car allowances, anything like that, is that used as income or something separate?
No, because it's an expense reimbursement. So there's an expense and you're getting reimbursed for it. So a couple things here. If there's an auto expense and you have an $800 car payment and you can show that you get $800 reimbursement, we can probably not count that debt against you because you're getting reimbursed. If you could show that it's taxed and you have this reimbursement, you have a $400 car payment and you get $800 added to every pay period, and it's taxed and taxable, then we could possibly make a case for the excess, the $400 being used. But for the most part, you're not going to be able to use it.
All right. Good stuff. So, that's it. Marcus, thanks for the shout out there. Looks like we are pushing into the end of the show here. Not a lot of questions. If there's something you guys want us to cover, make sure you drop it in the chat now. Maybe if there's any last minute questions, drop it in the chat. If you found any value tonight, make sure you hit the thumbs up. More importantly, if Josh and I can be of any assistance to you, I do see a question there. We'll jump on it here in just a second. Make sure you reach out, use the link that's scrolling at the bottom of the channel right now, and speak to Josh and the team. Happy to take care of you. Make sure you get you to the finish line and answer any questions along the way. So, Josh,
the fun part before we go to that, Jeb, is we have a new team member, and we wanted to make things as confusing as possible. So in addition to Jeb, the leader, making the phone ring, we have Jed on the team. So if you get connected to Jed when you call in, don't make the mistake that you're talking to the man himself, because Jeb is very different than Jed.
But I can talk to you. I just, I'm not going to probably provide a lot of value without you talking to Mr. Lewis first and getting pre-qualified. But Ben said, did you catch the part where Powell confirmed that the Fed will stop quantitative tightening and start buying treasuries again? Sneaky Fed. Yes, we did. And unfortunately, the market just took it in stride and didn't do anything. And I think maybe partly because kind of mentioned it maybe a week or so ago, and maybe a little bit was priced into the market already.
It's worse than that, Jeb, because he didn't do what they were hoping. He specifically said that the proceeds from mortgage-backed securities that were coming in would be reinvested into treasury bills. Bills are the shortest end of the curve. So they're saying they want to move short-term interest rates down. Mortgages follow more closely like 7-year, 10-year treasury bonds. And for that reason, if they're only buying the short end of the curve, it will steepen the yield curve, but it won't do anything for mortgage rates. So it is what it is. We were hoping that that would be helpful and a nice tailwind, but unless they change their mind in how they're going to reinvest the mortgage portfolio runoff, it is not helping us at all. And that's part of the negativity, in addition to the hawkish tone that the Fed had today.
I did not see that part. Do have additional question here. Can the equity on the house that I am selling be used to cover the DTI to help qualify on a house? So the equity that you build doesn't have anything to do with the DTI. Really, it has to do with the loan to value, which brings the total amount that you're financing down, which will impact your debt to income ratio. So yes, the equity can be used to help offset, the affordability piece, but it's not exactly like you mentioned there. What I would suggest is maybe reaching out to Josh, having a conversation, and letting him walk through it and see exactly where you stand.
And two ways, Jeb. I mean, your realtor brain goes, cool, you have this equity. Now you can put a bigger down payment. Let's say you have a bunch of debt. Let's say you walk away with $50,000. I can do minimum down on my purchase and use $40,000 or $30,000 to pay off all my debt.
DTI. Yes.
Yeah.
So
no.
If you're looking at it that way, that is correct.
But just it was the right answer. I'm saying there's two different ways we can attack it. If debt to income is a problem and you have equity coming out of a sale, we can make a bigger down payment, or we could actually go after the debt.
All right. Good stuff, guys. Until next week. Adios.
Amigos.